Powerline TV. Power to transform lives.
Welcome to another week of Family Life with Mama Rita. In the past weeks, we've been looking at the topic domestic violence. Domestic violence has been a serious thing, not just in Ghana, and I'll let you know. Honestly, I thought it was just in Ghana until I met two wonderful ladies in the UK, but we will go into it. We started domestic violence with Introduction to Domestic Violence, where we looked at the kinds of domestic violence and the forms. We have physical abuse, we have verbal abuse, we have emotional abuse, we have economic abuse, and we even have sexual abuse. My darling, don't think that because you went to engage her and you took her to the altar, you can have your way when it comes to sex. She must agree. There must be no rape in the marriage. So, sexual abuse. Then, after that, came in Reverend Lawyer Jifa with a legal perspective of domestic violence. And oh my God, I learned so much when Reverend Jifa came. Reverend Jifa, if you are watching me today, I want to say a very big thank you for educating my audience. You have no idea the lives you have touched. I was in the UK and my brother said, oh my God, Lawyer Jifa knows her stuff. I said, she must hear this. There's one thing you said that I would never forget, that any individual can report on behalf of the victim. Any individual. And if you are listening to me today, you have a sister, you have a friend, you have a cousin, you have a church member who is going through domestic violence. Have no minds of their own. They can't think straight. So we need people around them to think for them. We saw a video of somebody in America whose husband was abusing her. The brother said, let me report. The lady said, no. What the brother should have done was to have reported. Today, I don't know where the lady is. I don't know which cemetery she was buried in. The case in Ohio. My darling, let's take action on behalf of the victims. You can report. If you're a next door neighbor or you live in a compound house where a husband or a wife is abusing the partner, please report. Then citizens arrest. My darling, the Bible says that be one another's keeper. So that is what we call citizens arrest. God saw it long time ago that there will be domestic violence. So he said we should keep up for one another. We should be one another's keeper. If your brother or a sister or a neighbor or a friend or a church member or a colleague, you work with somebody, the person comes to work with bruises all the time, and the person has been able to confide in you, my darling, don't sit down. That is what we call the citizen's arrest. I was doing it. I didn't even know it was the citizen's arrest. A wife dare not report to me that the husband has been abusing her. I will call the police. I have so many people I call the police on. And then after then, we also looked at the biblical perspective of domestic violence. That is when we had Reverend Kim Foley and then Reverend Jifa again. Reverend Kim Foley, thank you so much for coming to us with a biblical perspective or the religious perspective. So you see, the Bible doesn't like divorce. That is the truth. But the Bible doesn't say that stay in the marriage when you are dying. Stay in the marriage and die. My darling, that is not what the Bible said. If you are in a relationship and the relationship is not working, you are being verbally abused all the time, emotionally abused all the time, physically abused all the time, financially abused all the time, sexually abused all the time, my darling, rise up for the sake of your children. Otherwise, it becomes a cycle. Because you went through it, your children now begin to see it as normal. So when they go into the marriage and they are going through the same things, they sit down and they keep quiet until one day they call you on phone to tell you that your daughter is gone or your son is gone. Then after then we had the victims. Oh my God. I'm still receiving messages out of the victims and people are ready to talk now. It always takes one person to come out and say, I will talk on behalf of everybody that is struggling and suffering silently in their marriages. My darling, if you are ready to talk, I have a place here for you. Family Life series. Come, let's talk. Share your testimonies. Share your story. You will deliver a daughter. You will deliver a son. You will deliver a friend. You will deliver somebody who is going through issues. And then after the victims, so the victims, I want to say a very big thank you to you. One of the ladies said to me, Mama Rita, my parents watched me that day. They cried. I mean, they knew what I went through, but that day they knew more than they thought they knew. They heard more than they thought they knew. Thank you so much. All my ladies, my wonderful ladies who were able to come. You know, I didn't mention one person's name. I don't want to be tempted to mention her name here. So all the ladies, thank you so much for being the channel for people to receive deliverance and for people to receive healing and for people to come out of prison. It's not just in Sawon prison that is prison. People are in prison in their own homes. They are in prison in their own marriages. Someone sent me an SOS message and said, Mama, I'm being abused. I'm even scared the message I'm sending to you. I mean, how can you be in such bondage? After then, also came Reverend Patrick Yorson and Reverend Jifa. We did a bit of Ask Mama Rita. Reverend Patrick and Reverend Jifa, I want to say a very big thank you to you. Today, oh my God, I'm taking you all the way to the UK. I hope the UK people are listening. I'm taking you to the UK today. With me are two wonderful ladies from the UK. I was so blessed by hosting them. With me today, all the way from the UK, Brenda Lewis is a social worker and advocate for domestic violence in the UK and a member of our East London church. And then another wonderful lady is Dr. Dr. Mrs. Vanessa Appiah. Dr. Mrs. Vanessa Appiah is a consultant physician in sexual health and HIV medicine. Dr. Vanessa is also a clinical lead for sexual health from the Bath Health in London, and is also a visiting senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London, also a member of our East London Mission, Royal House Chapel. And I hope you heard the positions of these ladies. Come to our East London Mission and see them serve, and they serve with such humility. My darling, calm down. Calm down. I was in UK and I was so shocked by their titles and their humility and the way they are serving. You should see Dr. Vanessa mopping, church floor, arranging chairs. I mean, you won't think this is a medical doctor and a senior lecturer. My darling, welcome once more to Family Life with Mama Rita. I am taking you. We are traveling together. Please get your passports ready. I hope you have your visas and your tickets. I am taking you all the way to the UK. In the past few weeks, we've been talking about domestic violence. I know people have their own definitions and ideas and what they think domestic violence is. Normally, when we talk about domestic violence, everybody's thinking about just emotional and physical abuse. What do you think domestic violence is?
I mean, I can start. I'll hand over to you, Brenda. So, for me, domestic abuse is really an abuse of power, and that happens in so many different forms. And we, like you said, we always think of physical abuse, and we think of that trauma of being hit, being kicked, or being bitten. But you also mentioned emotional abuse, and that can be so powerful and actually more impactful than physical abuse.
Wow.
So that can come in a way of, look at the way you look, I can't stand this, or you're stupid, you can't do this. So a lot of things to just belittle you and not feel that you are someone of worth, and that can be so destructive as well. And as well, you've got things like coercive abuse. So someone is there and they're just manipulating you. And when you think of things of like finances, so in a couple, in a relationship, you should both have access to finances. So if you want to go and do your own thing, do your hair, do the shopping, etc., do something nice, you have access to it yourself. But unfortunately, in some couples, one of the couple, and generally the man, will keep the money. So you only have the money to go and do that shop. You don't have any other power over your life.
Wow.
Exactly.
Brenda?
I mean, as Vanessa said, I mean, it stems, you've got the psychological abuse, but we also have sexual abuse.
That's right.
Sexual abuse is when a woman's being forced to do things that she may not want to do, especially, sexual acts that she feels is not something that she would normally do. There's also, you said coercion and control. Which is actually part of, in British society, it's against the law. So it's actually law that you can get arrested for power and control. And coercion over here. The other thing that we need to
and I hope people in the UK know this, and somebody in UK is listening.
People, I think, are becoming more aware. I mean, there is a lot of websites that you can go on to also find out about abuse. There's various websites that you can go on if you feel that you're being abused, that you can go on. There's also technology abuse as well, because that's a big thing as well that's come out. And even for me, working within the field that I'm doing, because I'm advocacy working with women, some of these things I hadn't even heard of. Men actually put in spy cams in their children's dolls listening to conversations that the wife's having, putting trackers on their cars. So some abuse
That's
goes...
the technological abuse.
Yeah, and even just monitoring your phone, so putting devices on your phone where they can track where you're going, know what you're doing, you know, they can go into your account. There's account abuse where it comes as economic, but it's financial abuse as well. So yeah, I mean, abuse comes in many formats.
Wow. Okay.
No, Rita, I was just saying that it was so good that you said that. Do people know about it? Because I think that
because you see, one thing I discovered, I realized that especially in Ghana and in Africa, so many people are in the dark. Yeah. And they don't, I mean, they have no clue. People are sending me SOS messages. Mommy, what can I do? I'm so scared. I'm being abused. I don't even know what to do. Who do I call? Where do I go? What to do? You know, people have no clue in Africa.
No, and I think that even in the UK, so we're getting better and we're learning more, but so many women don't know what power they have and how they can move forward.
And even in UK.
And I think that what you've just said about people in Ghana and Africa, you know, people in Ghana and Africa move here, so they're still living by the mindset of Ghana and Africa. So when they get here, they're thinking, I don't have anything. Help. And for me, that's the most painful thing, because you're not just coming to this place for the financial reasons or other reasons. There's different laws in place to protect you.
Let me tell you a story I handled. This couple used to be in the US, and anytime there was an issue, you know, the woman knew who to call, or either call the police or something. They would come, talk to them, warn the man, and you know, all that. So after being in the US for a while, and these are this is a Ghanaian couple. So after being in the US for a while, the man said, oh, I think it's about time. We've lived in the US for a while. Let's go to Ghana. And then they came to Ghana. Immediately they landed. The man said, now we are in Ghana. In Ghana, women don't have power. Let me use a Ghanaian term. You do fifi, and you will see. So the woman said, so is that why you brought me here? Just when she said that, 2 slaps. And the woman thought, oh, who will hear me? Who will listen to me? Who will believe my story? Where do I go to? But I want Ghanaians to know, and this is what we've been talking about all this while. I brought in a professional, a lawyer, to tell you that you have help. My darling, you have help. Somebody after the show last week sent me an SOS message and said, Mommy, even the message I'm sending you, I'm so scared. If the man finds it, I'll be in trouble. Please, what do I do? My darling, you have help. Don't sit down and do means, you know, and then suffer alone. You have help. We've told you where and who to approach. If for any reason you don't know what to do, just like the lady did, just SOS me or send a message to the officers of Royal House Chapel, and we will come to your aid.
Oh, that's beautiful. No, because it's so sad to hear that, because that behavior of being, you know, the man being good in one area and then changing, that is ultimate control. And that's the thing, that we all often underestimate other human beings because they're there being calculating. So you just knowing that there are people such as yourselves that are giving them information is fantastic.
So what are the signs of abuse?
So it can be so varied, and I think for me, so in my work, so I do work in sexual health. So within our service, we have a service that looks after people that have been victims of sexual assault. But we also have people that come in from all walks of life. And the thing is, abuse has no face, so it can happen to anyone. So it doesn't mean, you know, you feel that you are I'm a confident woman, I'm beautiful, I'm successful, it can't happen to me. Sadly, it can. And then it can also happen to the most disempowered woman as well. So it doesn't have a face. So within our work, I would say that the thing that always comes out for me is having abuse is like trauma, so it can manifest in different ways. So for some women, it can be that they come in and they're very defensive. So you want to ask them any question about what they're going on, and they are so used to being in defense mode, they can be very abrupt. Or scared to talk. They're like, oh, actually, no, I don't want to talk about this. Why are you asking me? It's none of your business.
Wow.
And I think, for me, it just always reminds me that when we encounter people and they're abrupt or difficult, don't make assumptions, because you don't know what that person is going through. I
didn't think this could happen to people in UK.
Oh, goodness. I
thought it was a typical African thing.
This is a word. It's a world. I would say, sorry.
Yeah,
it's
a
worldwide thing, because you've got violence against women and girls. Also, it's not just domestic violence. It's violence against women and girls. So it also has sexual violence. It has honor-based violence. You've got FGM, which is female genital mutilation. All that comes against violence against women and girls. And it's worldwide. I mean, it doesn't matter what nationality, because I'm actually working as an advocate. I work with people that refer to us from various organisations. So that might be, I don't know, social workers, mental health doctor, health workers. I mean, one particular example is a woman went in to see her health worker with her child, and she disclosed that she was being abused by her husband. Predominantly it was verbal abuse, but abuse is abuse, because it's that psychological abuse. So then they get referred to my service, and then we would pick up their case and start supporting them and working on a one-to-one, key working, kind of identifying what support needs they have. So we do support plans and just help them to make a decision. My role isn't actually to say to a woman to leave the man. My role is actually to support them with what they want. So, you know, for me, it's like a lot of women feel trapped. They feel like, because of finances, if the man's the breadwinner, he's bringing in the money, they won't, they won't leave because of that, or just because of fear. And not understanding that domestic abuse is about power and control, because that's what it boils down to.
Because it's the shame as well. So it's so many women that I work with, they just talk about the shame, and so after you've built that relationship with them, that you talk about it more, it's that shame and guilt, because it's like, how have I allowed this to happen? And again, it's reminding them, it's not your fault. It's not you that has driven this, because sometimes the man will say, if only you didn't dress that way, you've got the wrong lipstick on, or you've made my food, it's too hot, it's too cold, and that incites it. But that isn't your fault. They're using that language to control you. So that's often
manipulation.
Exactly. So when often we see people at work, when they open up, that's what they talk about, and it really impacts their self-esteem and confidence in so many ways.
When we talk about domestic abuse, we're always thinking about the woman, the lady, the girl. Do we have men who are also being abused in this part of the world?
And we were talking about it before. I see so many cases. Obviously, not as many as men against women, but we definitely see it. And what I see as well, if you think about the shame that a woman feels, you can imagine the shame a man feels, because in life men are supposed to be masculine, in control, and then all of a sudden, and I would say a couple of months ago, I saw a guy, he was coming in and he said he had symptoms. We examined him, there were no symptoms. But when we examined him, we had to lift up his top, and there were bruises. And
that's the man.
The man. And I said, what's happened? And he said, I fell off a bike. I said, oh gosh. I said, oh that seems really painful. And then we were going on, and then as the consultation went on, I said, oh, I feel I have to ask you because where you've gotten the bruises, it doesn't fit with a bike. So if it was that you got into a fight or there's something, I'm not the police. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to support. And then it came out that he was being abused by his wife, and it was incredibly sad because he found it very difficult to know where to turn to. He tried to tell friends, and they would laugh it off and say, "Oh, you know, oh, come on," and all this. And what has transpired? She has come from a very abusive home, and that's all she knew. That's all she knew to speak and communicate was to fight and to throw things and to beat him, and also there was psychological abuse as well. So very much so, yeah.
And it's the same for myself. I mean, I've had a few guys who have come through to the service who have been abused, and a lot of it is embarrassment. They feel really embarrassed. They feel really ashamed. I know this is a Christian program, so I'm kind of thinking, no, okay, because in some situations it's same sex. Yeah. It's same-sex relationships, and actually with women, there are women in same-sex relationship, meaning female-female relationship, where the woman is abusing another woman. And
I thought they don't go through problems.
No, they have it's just as much.
Definitely.
They gave us the impression that same-sex marriages, they love each other and they care for each other, and they don't go through.
It's a thing that we don't talk about because we keep it very. People keep it very quiet about how different people go through different things, but I think it's great to have an opportunity to talk about it because you do see it in same-sex relationships as well, and it's some of my work as well is supporting those that are going through that as well.
And there are services that predominantly work with males. Yeah. You know, like just victims who have been abused by, or survivors, we call them, survivors of domestic abuse that deal with just predominantly male services. Wow. My service actually deal with both, but predominantly it is more kind of like, I think the status is like 82% of women are predominantly abused by men, so it is predominantly women that are being abused, more so than men. But,
Dr. Vanessa, you said something that just hit me. The lady who was abusing her husband, you said she was doing that because she was also abused as a child. Yeah. So it means that a lot of the abusers were actually abused as children.
Not always.
Not always.
Not always.
I've found that, with abuse, it's not always that you've been abused, but a lot of children, because that's the thing as well, which would be good to touch on as well, that you've got to remember that when children are in a home where there's a lot of abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, they're hearing and they're seeing. So sometimes they're being physically abused, by parents, and generally the fathers will use the children as a weapon against the mother. So then they will grow up with that trauma. They don't know how to express it if they've not had any support. I mean, my particular service, we work with children from the age of, I think, 7 to 13. We've got another team member who deals with the children. So there's different categories we deal with, but that worker will deal with the children regarding trauma, what they've seen, what they've heard. But it can, I suppose, for some adults, stem into then becoming an abuser.
Yeah, because I think exactly it's not always, but it can happen. And the thing that I always think is really important is about also recognizing how we support the abusers, because things will only change if we say, right, to abusers, this is wrong, they are reprimanded, etc. But also there's some kind of rehabilitation and changing that mindset that this is not right, and unpicking where those behaviors come from. And sometimes those behaviors do come from a history, but sometimes, as Brenda's saying, it can just be, unfortunately, their behavior. Yeah.
I was on, I think, Joy TV during the lockdown. And the host and presenter said it looks like COVID has affected a lot of homes. A lot of homes. And I said it's so true. Because during the COVID time, I had not mothers, but the children calling me and saying, Daddy's abusing mommy.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah.
How has COVID affected homes?
It's transformed them, because, you know, in most homes, you're not together all the time. So you have got this kind of one person is going out to work, someone is at home doing things. The interaction that you have in true daytime sometimes can only be like an hour or two. And so it's very limited. But in COVID, that has changed with all the lockdowns. And the other thing is that there's so many more pressures on people now in terms of jobs. People have lost their jobs, sadly. They've got less money coming in the home. Just frustration and fear about COVID. So we've seen, and I'm sure Brenda will talk about it, I've seen so many more cases of domestic violence that have come into the clinic. And it's people that have been going through it before COVID, and it's got worse, and they can't even get out to come and tell you. So you're finding people doing dropped calls in the toilet, and you're having to trace back, you know, because they can't get out. So they're like, they can't contact you by phone because they're worried that the person is monitoring. So they're trying to drop it so that you will at least know that something is happening. So we're seeing things like that. And then sadly, we're seeing kids seeing it more. Because they weren't, sometimes the parents could hide it, but then they're seeing it far more. Yeah, it's terrible.
And just hearing it, you know, because remember, it's not just seeing, it's the hearing as well.
Yeah.
You know, when parents are shouting and hollering, but definitely COVID has made an impact. There's definitely an increase. I mean, I'm just trying to, I mean, I've got about, the moment, I think I've got about 50 cases on my caseload, and we're only meant to carry a caseload of 30. And it's showing you, and different areas also, because the depravity will also increase domestic violence. Really, a lot of men, they're not good at communicating, so they don't necessarily talk. They lash out. So I think there's a lot of things. I mean, you know, this lockdown has really, I think there's, you know, a lot of people who are divorcing, separating because of, you know, communication within the home, lack of communication, and not having other people to be able to talk to.
Wow.
I think for me, what I've experienced is that I've had some people come through my organisation who are married to deacons and various people in the church, and they're being abused, and I'm like, wow, you know, because being a Christian myself, I feel like, you know,
don't you have anybody to talk to in the church?
Yeah, or even the fact that a Christian man is doing this to his wife. You know, when I feel, for me, my experience of Royal House Chapel is that it's always been spoken about to kind of love and cherish and be protective of your wife.
That's right.
So when you're hearing women coming through saying, well, you know, they don't say what church they go to, and I don't ask, but they're saying, well, I'm Christian, my husband's a deacon, and he's beating me, or he's manipulating me financially, or he locked me and my daughter out of the house one morning. You know, you just think, well, wow, you know. I did actually say to one woman, like, have you spoken to anybody in your church about what's going on?
That's right.
And she said yes, but they seem to try to keep, you know, I can't explain it. It's kind of like they want the couples to stay together instead of, and I know there is about having some sort of counselling and discussion, but there must be a point where you look at safety, because the most dangerous time for a woman to leave a man is, or for a woman, if she's the most dangerous time for a woman when the woman gets killed in domestic violence, and there's 2 women who get killed predominantly in England, like every week, from domestic violence. So is when she's saying she's going to leave.
Just a minute. I hope somebody's listening to me. I hear there are 2 women who get killed through domestic violence every week. Not every month, not every year, every week in the UK. My darling, don't wait and tell yourself, had I known, I don't know where you will be, whether in heaven or in hell. But even in heaven, when you get there, you'll be beaten. Because the Bible says, why do you die a foolish death? If you see it coming, you will know. Go ahead, Brenda.
So it's just, I suppose, just for us to have a better understanding.
That's
I'm
right.
hoping that through our churches, I suppose the leaders will also, because there's loads of training you can do, domestic violence training, and it's open generally to anyone who's open to doing it. And one of the things I'd say as well is that a lot of DV services tend to not be against churches, but they don't see churches as being a place, because of a lot of women have had negative experiences of not being supported. Then they feel that the church sometimes, whether you say courage or
they cover up. They cover up.
Yeah,
And so
instead of supporting
Dr. Vanessa
the
and
individual.
Brenda, I am told of a case in Ghana where a wife went to see the pastor and said, I'm being abused by my husband. You know what a wife was made to do? Go through deliverance.
And that's what happens a lot of the time.
And I think it's and this is why we need to change it, and to say that there are churches that are like Royal House that are bringing it front and center and are saying that it's not acceptable and things have to change. Because what happens, I will say as a medic, I am very clear about my faith, and I am very comfortable asking people about their faith and how it plays out in their life and how it affects their decision making. But not all of my colleagues are like that, because they don't feel confident, I think, to say, ask about faith. But if we within the church body can say, we know what happens, we are here and we are supporting our congregation, then I think that other people will see the church as a positive thing in people's lives, and then also work with the church to bring change, which is so important as well. Yeah.
And it's things like highlighting DV, having information.
Yeah.
I mean, the organisation I work with, you can get leaflet information. You can. There's the National Domestic Helpline is a really, really good one for females who are here, because you can go on the website. You can. There's phone help.
Please let them
where
know.
You can talk to people.
Let them know. People don't know where to go to. So
the National Domestic Helpline is one of the main ones, because they'll signpost you to other organisations. If you need a refuge, somewhere for you to escape straight away, because for some people they need to leave like now. So it's not a case of waiting. It's a case of, if they don't leave, they're going to lose their life. If you call the National Domestic Helpline, they will signpost you to different organisations who then will give you a call and work with you to leave the abuser, you know, whether that might even be for a man, you know, as well as women, but it is predominantly women.
So what advice would you give to people in domestic abuse or domestic violence who are going through it? What kind of advice would you give to them?
For me, the first thing I would say to any woman or any person who's experiencing domestic violence, because I do feel that we need to incorporate the fact that men are being abused as well, is to not blame yourself. The blame thing, because that in itself, you know, eats away at you, and then you feel more worthless about what you're going to do. I think it's kind of it's building trust in somebody. For me, I can work and build trust in somebody being an advocate, because I work with people being short-term, long-term. So it's building trust, but it's having someone to talk to. Find someone they can talk to first and foremost, whether that's through, if they have a faith, you know, whether that's through their church, whether that's through, you know, whatever religion they have, somebody to talk to. There's also, as I said, loads of websites where they can, you know, find out their rights. There's a site called Rights of Women, and it gives you all the legal advice, a bit like I did hear your discussion on the law and stuff. So it gives them information about the law, what they can do, if they're married, if they're not married, where they stand. So I think it's about information, finding out as much information as you can, to be able to make a formative decision as to whether I'm going to leave or stay or work with. Because some women, they don't necessarily want to leave the relationship. Although they're being abused, you know, they want to work with their husbands. which is fine, but it's been, I suppose, having that awareness and education to know what abuse is, because some women don't even know what abuse is.
Exactly.
You know, they think being beaten is abuse, but the psychological abuse and verbal abuse can be a lot worse, you know, than being hit by somebody, because, you know, that will heal, but mentally, it's the trauma, you know.
So before I go to Dr. Vanessa, Brenda says, don't blame yourself.
Yes, blame.
My darling, stop thinking that you deserve what you are going through. You deserve the emotional abuse. You deserve the sexual abuse. You deserve the physical abuse. I mean, you don't deserve it. My darling, you are a creation of God. You are an apple of God's eye. Look at yourself one more time in the mirror. See how beautiful you are. See how you have allowed yourself for another human being to degrade you, to kill your confidence, to tell you you are not beautiful, to tell you you are going nowhere, to tell you you are not loved. My darling, even if nobody loves you, I am here to let you know Mama Rita loves you and God loves you.
Amen.
Dr. Vanessa,
No.
what would you advise anybody going through or experiencing abuse?
So I can't even say it better than that because I think that for me, again, it's the letting yourself know that you are worth more and that you are not to blame. But as Brenda said as well, the education is so important. And these websites, some people worry because they go on it and they think that it can be traced. But sometimes there's a place that you can click and it says keep it safe.
Wow.
So you see him coming, you can click it, and then it goes to a generic website.
Wow.
So you don't have to be exposed like that. And I think that is really important as well. But finding the person to just be open to and talk it through is so important. And for you to do that, you have to be kind to yourself and say that this is not right and I want to change it. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. You know, like we're saying, the people that you speak to, these organizations, they're trained to do this. So, and in healthcare as well, that's part of our role. So don't be scared to go to any of those places to get the help that you need. Yeah.
Before I continue, we will go for a short commercial break and we'll be back. Please don't forget to send your questions, your contributions. If you want me to bring you on to talk about your experience, please don't forget to send a message to the contact numbers you see on the screen. Come 2021 is here. Roll away the stone. The Lord must roll away every stone in your life, every heaviness in your life, every singleness in your life, every sickness in your life, every pain in your life. But before the stone will be rolled away, at come 2021, we need to gather as women to pray. Make a date with me on the 11th of June for our half night. We are meeting at 9 o'clock. Remember, it's not normal all night, so you have to come early. We are closing at 12, so we are starting the half night at 9 o'clock. Remember, this is not full all night, so you can't get there at 10 or 11. We are coming at 9 o'clock, 3 hours non-stop prayer. God bless you. See you there. Welcome back to Family Life with Mama Rita. If you just joined us, we are dealing with domestic violence. My darling, is becoming a big thing. A big thing, not just in Ghana, but in the US and in the UK. It hasn't been too long where we saw that a pastor, my darling, a pastor, you should see and listen to clips of the pastor preaching. It's something else. Preaches powerfully, and congregation members are clapping. Preach on pastor and our papa and our bishop and our man of God, and they didn't know what the wife was going through. And unfortunately, the wife couldn't talk about it. Told family members. The brother came in once, saw what, his in-law was doing, tried to warn. And listen to what the pastor said. He said, if I don't kill your sister, don't call me a man of God. How can this person be a man of God? My darling, he's a man of the devil. He's a man of the devil. The brother wanted to report to the police. Unfortunately, the sister didn't allow him. Where is she today? My darling, she's in the cemetery somewhere. Don't sit down and die a foolish death. My darling, if you don't know, after accepting Christ, the next thing is enjoyment. Enjoy life. You have suffered. The money is yet to come. You must enjoy your children. You must attend their graduation. Your children are going to be engineers and lawyers and doctors, and they are going to get married and all that. And you'll be watching this from heaven. Please, I don't want to watch this one from heaven. I want to be here and enjoy my children and my grandchildren. There is help. Talk about it. Even for pastors' wives, talk about it. Some pastors' wives think, if I talk about it, I'll be disgracing my husband. My darling, it's better to disgrace him than to die a foolish death. Oh, welcome back.
Thank you.
Dr. Vanessa and Brenda, how can the experience of sexual assault affect women?
So in so many ways, as we said before, but one of the ways that I see it quite a lot is through how women view their body. So when they've been assaulted, it's like someone has taken from them some of the kind of sacredness of their body.
Wow,
and kind of
like when you are raped.
Yes, and just ripped that away.
Wow.
And so for them, for some women, they thinking, well, I'm worthless, so actually it doesn't really matter. Wow. So anyone can touch me, anyone can do anything to me. And we call one of the things disassociation. So you don't even see your body as your own, and you're just like, whoever can do anything.
Wow.
And then there are some women that, are trying to,
But let's go into it first. I want us to be on the same page. Mm-hmm. Some people do not understand what sexual assault is. Mm-hmm. Do people get sexually assaulted in the marriage? Mm-hmm. In Africa, now it's not the same, but in Africa, we were told that there can never be a rape in the marriage. There can never be sexual assault in the marriage. So let's first know what sexual assault is.
So that's great. It's really important to be clear that any sexual act that you have, there needs to be choice, and there needs to be saying, I agree to it, consent. And if
even
you do
in the marriage,
exactly, and even if you do not, so once you do not consent, that is rape. That is not that you've been violated. And it's really beautiful that you're just reminding us to be very clear on that, because for so many women that we see, because they're married or in a long-term relationship, they feel they must accept that. And as you say, it's not rape, but it is. It's about consent. And so at that point, when you haven't consented to someone doing anything physical or sexual to you, then it can have so much impact on you. And it can, like I said, psychologically, but one of the things that I often see is that then women, when they have to go for intimate examinations, like cervical screening, to go and check for cervical cancer, they won't go because they're like, I don't want anyone to touch me there, or I'm so scared, and they tense up. So one of my clinics that I work with is that we have a specialist clinic for women that have been survivors of sexual assault to come in, so that we have a more dedicated approach so that you can have your cervical screening. So I think it just emphasizes that there is help out there, and if what you're experiencing, it's not, there's again no shame in it, but also many women go through that, so there is support there, definitely. Yeah,
I think you've explained it really well. I mean, to me, in my head, when you were saying about having a woman being married and having sex with her husband, I think it's kind of like the husband expects, because I'm married, you can't refuse, but actually no is no. And when it comes to British law, no is no. So if a woman says no, it is rape. Confidentiality, I just speaking of a woman that I had basically, who, because she came here and was married to somebody here, she didn't have her immigration status. So this man used that, and every time he wanted to have sex, she couldn't refuse. And although she said she would say no, he would constantly just abuse her sexually. She finally left and obviously dealt with that. But
were they married?
They were married. They were married, but because
let me ask you this question. As a Christian woman, I'm talking for the Christian aspects, why will a woman refuse a man sex?
So it's really interesting, because when you kind of talk about sexual well-being, and I have couples in there, and they'll talk about that, and then the guy will say, well, why is she refusing me sex anyway? So we're in a relationship, and I want sex, and I want it now, so she should go on. And so I say that for within a couple, we sometimes have different levels of sexual desire. We want it at different points, and it's not for one to reprimand the other because they don't want it at that time. It's about talking to each other to work out what is the way to enjoy each other the best. So, because for me, sexual wellness and pleasure, it's important in a marriage, but it's about having that communication so that you're both on the same page.
I think also respecting one another.
Exactly.
In society now, two parties are working, especially here in England. It's not just the man who's out working and the wife is at home looking after the children. Even if she's at home looking after the children, that's a job in itself. So if you're tired and your husband's coming in and he's like, oh babes, tonight I want to blah, whatever, you might be tired. You might just be physically tired. If your wife is saying, you know what, not tonight babes, I'm tired, then I think you should respect that and have some understanding for her.
Brother and Dr. Vanessa, understand it. When you say, I'm tired, once a month I'm tired, I'm fine. But there are other women who are constantly tired 24/7, 365 days in a year.
They might need therapy.
This is where I want you to come. 365 days in a year. You are married, for heaven's sake. And we as Christians, we are not of the other religion, where a man is allowed to marry 4 women and have concubines. We say one wife, one woman, or one husband, one wife, and 365 days in a year. So you are tired, my darling. For me, if a couple come to me like that, and the man says, or the woman says, oh, my husband raped my darling. If it's for a year, and you say no for a year, I will clap for the man for raping you. For heaven's sake, why did you marry them?
No, because it's funny, because I'm laughing about it and not lightening it, but it's because it's all about communication for me.
which is perfect.
That is it. Because
But I think if that's the case,
Yeah.
you know, there's no sexual relationship, then I would question my wife, like, we need to talk.
Exactly.
What is going on?
Exactly.
You know, do we need some marriage counselling
right.
here?
Yeah.
Because there's got to be a reason. I mean, I don't know any healthy individual
I like that.
unless you're physically unwell.
That's
Because
right.
we've got to remember that women also, depending on your age, where you're at, the
Exactly.
menopause, women go through things, you know, that you know, as they say, as you go through the menopause in life as well, your libido goes down. You may not feel as sexually attractive because you may have put on some weight, depending on how that partner makes you feel. So there could be various reasons, and I think it is about.
So it's
Well,
something
that's
you
communication.
talk about.
Exactly,
Yeah,
because you have to
couple.
unpick what is driving it. So because
It might be the other way around. It might be the man who doesn't want to. You know.
Exactly, and I think that like but what we say in couples is that for the guy, just because you're not getting something doesn't mean that you jump and do something physical against your wife once she's saying no. But what it does drive is to say, what is driving it? And again, within relationships, you, exactly as Brenda's saying, for a woman to feel that she wants sex, to feel ready to have sex, there's many different things. You have to feel in the mood. You have to feel like a woman. So if you feel that you're going through some stuff and you've lost your confidence, that can impact your libido and wants and needs. So it's not for someone to say, forget that, just have sex. What it is what is driving it, and how can we move forward as a couple to do that? Yeah.
And let's talk about it.
Yeah.
My darling, me, I'm a wife. I'm a wife. I am a pastor's wife. I have women under me. These days, the young girls that are entering into our churches are ready to give your husband sex. You can't say you are tired 365 days. You can't say I am in the mood. I'm not in the mood 365 days. You can't say I am sick 365 days. There are other women, other girls. You should see their dressing when they come to church. You see how they sit down when they come to church. My darling, if you have an issue, let's talk. If you are in Ghana, come, let's talk about it. You can't refuse your husband 365 days. Why I'm talking about this is that a lot of pastors are suffering in their marriages. And the women know that the men can go out and satisfy themselves. So then, every day I'm tired. I'm not in the mood. We just came. We just ate. I just finished bathing the children.
That sounds a bit like it could be the female manipulating the situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
That can happen as well.
Yeah.
You know.
But are men also sexually assaulted in their marriages?
So, because it's interesting, because you, like we're saying, women can cause abuse, can inflict abuse on men, and I think even what as Brenda just said about like female manipulation of that. So it can be that they can, by withholding sex, they are exerting some control to manipulate. There are cases where we see that the woman is like, you have to have sex with me now, and the guy may say, you know, I didn't want it, but I felt I had to. And depending on the physical strength of a woman, she can, you know, put force onto him as well. So you can see that, but I have to say, I don't see that as much. Well, I see that very, very small cases.
Of a man,
and it's like, I can even think of the number of cases I've seen like that. Whereas the other way, I've seen so many. Yeah.
Did we finish with how sexual assault is affecting women? Are you done with it?
I think so. I think we've got the key things out. But it's for me. Yeah, exactly as you say, trauma. I think in medicine at the moment, we're doing a lot of work called trauma-informed care. So recognizing that trauma can have such an impact on your life, and if it's not dealt with, and you don't have the support to talk through it and deal with it, it can be really detrimental. So another thing I would urge women is that talking about it and seeking help, not just for that situation, but just on your mindset and mental health in general, is crucial. Yeah.
Oh, I have enjoyed the two of you. I wish we won't finish, but unfortunately, you would have to give your closing remark. What do you want somebody to take from tonight? What advice would you give somebody who's going through domestic abuse? What should they do? I mean, what advice? And like I said to you, so many people are listening to you from different backgrounds, different cultures, different nationalities. I mean, what would you want to tell them before we bring the, oh my God, Dr. Vanessa and Brenda? Because of you, I'm going to come back to the UK. I really, really enjoyed you. Please give your closing remark.
Thank you. So for me, I would say you're not alone. The shows like this are here to support you. And there is no shame in going through what you're going through, but there is always help. And talk about it, seek support, and trust the individual that you're speaking to work with you to bring that change. But you are not alone, and you do not have to take what you are taking. And that would be my, to summarize for that.
I think Dr. Vanessa said it all, but I think definitely blame, don't blame yourself, and definitely talk to people, seek help. There are helplines, loads of, the National Domestic Helplines, particularly for Britain, is an excellent helpline. There's always somebody to talk to. And it's just, it's talk, be open with somebody, even when it's difficult, trust somebody,
But Mama Rita, I wanted to say thank you for having us. And I think, I have to say this because I think that in our work, we see that many people don't have the support within their faith and those in their churches to go to. And I just think it's a testament to you. I think it's a testament to Royal House in kind of bringing this out. So thank you, and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for accepting to come on my show.
Oh, definitely. Anytime.
I've really, really enjoyed the two of you. God bless you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Reverend Darkith for allowing you to come on the show. So Dr. Vanessa and Brenda are members of our East London mission, our East London church, pastored by Reverend Nandi Amano. And I will come your way same day, same time next week. I will see if we have more questions coming up from today's show. Then we will be forced to do Ask Mama Rita next week. But thank you so much. Please take good care of yourself. And remember, COVID is not over yet. Wear your masks, sanitize your hands, wash your hands, do social distancing, and please make sure you are eating well. God bless you, and I love you.